It's an elusive thing, the perfect travel camera. For me personally, it has to fulfill multiple different criteria. It obviously has to provide results that please the part of me that will look back at the memories that were captured, like I'm going to do kind of in this video. It also has to have the capabilities in order to even take those shots in the first place, and it should be both intuitive and honestly fun to use. That last one matters a lot because a camera that is fun to shoot with without being cumbersome can help me stay present in the moment. Or even better, the experience of using the camera can add to the memory itself. While there are a number of different cameras that I have used on trips for both work and vacation and leisure, they all lacked in one particular aspect: the form factor. Large cameras are simply a chore to lug around in and out of a camera bag, and these days a camera scores extra points for actually being stylish all on their own. And this long-winded intro is obviously winding up for me to say, there is finally a camera that basically hits all those marks. This OM system camera is an easy contender for a great travel companion, but it also provides a lot of versatility that I had to use on my own trip abroad to Asia, both into Taipei in Taiwan for Computex as a work camera, and then as a very reliable travel camera, capturing memories as I showed my parents around Seoul, South Korea. But when I use the word versatility, I mean that in so many more ways than one, because this retro-looking camera that just looks gorgeous, and we'll get into that later, actually provides so much control. The kind of control that somebody like me that is a little bit more than a casual shooter really goes for. Hey, it's Joshua Vergara. What's going on, everybody? This is the OM System OM-3, and honestly, it's just a ton of fun. Now, before we get started, the standard disclaimer: this camera is on loan from OM System and they are sponsoring this video. However, I am the one that approached them because when this camera started making the rounds, I seriously wanted to get my hands on one. I'm in a really lucky position to not only be able to try out the camera courtesy of OM System, but they were gracious enough to partner up with me again to showcase what has become a highly sought after camera in the OM-3. I talked with OM System about using this OM-3 to shoot a family trip that I planned out in South Korea, showing my parents around a place that they have never been to. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to capture some of their newest and most cherished memories from Seoul and Busan in South Korea with this kind of kit. And that provides the backdrop for this look at the OM System OM-3. Giving you a peek behind the curtain here, I'm actually filming this A-roll that you're seeing right now at the end of my trip. I'm literally hours away from leaving Seoul, South Korea, but along my trip here with my folks, I have gotten in front of the camera a few times to talk about my experience in real time with this camera. So I'm going to go ahead and let some of that happen with a bit of voiceover, and then I'll come back and give my final thoughts once I'm back home and give this a few extra tests. Having done much of the touristy stuff in Seoul already with larger cameras on previous trips, the OM-3 was a breath of fresh air to carry around. This much smaller body is also one of the most stylish out there right now, given that OM System went a little retro with the design. The OM-3 has been described as a throwback to the old Pen F cameras, with this silver lining across a black body that makes it feel like a deliberate accessory to my daily wardrobe. But with the vibes of the retro also come the proper controls, with dials upon dials and even more dials, giving shooters a ton of control over the shooting experience. If you know me at all, you know that I love texture, not just in photos or videos, but in terms of handling and the experience of using a camera. The fact that the on and off switch is over on the left side, it kind of implies to me that when I bring the camera up and switch this thing on, it's really time to get to work. And I mean that both literally and figuratively, because honestly, this thing is just a joy to use. Few things feel better than maneuvering around a machine that you know and understand through and through, and after just a few days with the OM-3, I was already feeling that type of way. And this comes after years at this point of trying to use full frame cameras and whatnot. But the beauty of Micro Four Thirds is that you can have a really great kit with just a small footprint. I mean, right down to the fact that in my bag, I just have this camera and one other prime lens. And since I do have digital teleconversion on here, I can get more focal lengths by just hitting a button that I set as the shortcut to get that 1.4 in video or that 2 times in photo. The Micro Four Thirds systems basically started my career, so I'm always interested to see where that system is going, even if I do use other cameras on top of all of these. And while the inevitable thought of low light performance on a smaller sensor will come into play, and honestly it did during this trip a couple of times, it honestly did not take away from the fact that every picture I did get felt like they had weight once I reviewed them later. That's the lens, pun intended, that I wanted to come into the OM-3 with, looking at this camera as a proper travel companion that is there to capture memories. But beyond all of that, I don't think that the OM-3 really faltered in any situations that I commonly found myself in. Besides, it's in those situations that I might get creative to actually get the shot that I want, or just opt for a different tool altogether if I was working on something, let's say, mission critical. And that's just the way it goes. You have cameras for different use case scenarios, and usually not all cameras can be a jack of all trades situation. What's crazy though is that while I have cameras for a studio setup, for filming, and for travel, the OM-3 is the first camera in a while that actually feels like it can slot itself into many of those situations and do the jobs well. I will admit though that in a place like this, the Starfield Library here in Seoul at the COEX Mall, beautiful place by the way, one of the biggest libraries, legitimately libraries that is in existence. You can't even buy books here. You can only pick them out and read them here in the library. And this 17mm from OM System, which is a fantastic f1.8 lens so far, it's just not wide enough for me to really get all of those dramatic shots of me or my parents, who I'm here with, in front of all of these bookshelves. That being said, there are still some great shots that I am able to get with the kit that I have on me. Of course, let's not forget the screens. You got two here. After all, there is the EVF on here. A compact camera with an EVF is a combination that I'm realizing I'm kind of missing in some of my other compact cameras that forego the EVF for just a pop-out screen. There is a pop-out screen though, which is probably going to be desirable for anybody looking at this camera as a good vlogging companion, especially since with these smaller lenses that still provide some great quality, you can have a compact kit for that purpose. I feel like vlogging today. Maybe because we're actually somewhere really early, so there's not a lot of people. So I feel a bit more freedom, let's use that word. We're actually here at the Haedong Yonggungsa Temple. We're coming up on one of my favorite pieces of this whole place, and that's the shrine here that is supposed to be for traffic safety. You can see the car behind me. This is a thing. Prayers for people who might be taxi drivers, people who might be service workers who are behind the wheel all the time, and then everybody else, of course. But of course, this is a mid-range compact camera, and because of that, there are a couple of compromises that I have to mention. The EVF can be a little bit clearer, and the pop-out screen could be a bit brighter. I have put it at max brightness, but I don't really want to do that all the time because I'm trying to conserve battery life, which isn't bad, but still, every little bit counts. And then a couple of other things as far as the hardware is concerned. The HDMI port is a mini port, and I know that concerns some people. I personally have never broken one of these ports, but I can understand how some people may be concerned if they're using it often with some sort of external monitor. And the only other thing after that that I have really kind of had to contend with is the speaker on here. It's just not that great. It doesn't get very loud, it doesn't give you a great representation of the videos that you're capturing, but at least there is a headphone jack on here, so if I really need to check my audio in a clip, I can just plug a pair in. And there's nothing stopping me from just putting the OM-3 on a tripod like this, connecting some external microphones since it does have a microphone jack, and getting one of the most common shots here in a studio environment, which would be the talking head portions. This is the most common type of footage that I get using any camera, and the fact that a travel forward camera like the OM-3 is able to get this done as well means I can do it pretty much anywhere without having a huge kit. I just need the right tools, the right lighting and whatnot, and I should be able to get what I need done even on the go. That just adds to the versatility of the OM System OM-3. In case it wasn't clear before with the traffic shrine, there are a lot of different shrines here, a lot of different places where you can do prayers for various reasons. Like for example, this Buddha right here, where if you rub the belly, it is in hopes of granting a son. I am going to pass on that one for now. Now, OM System didn't skimp out on the feature set, outfitting this Micro Four Thirds sensor with all of the bells and whistles that prove why the smaller sensor size can be big on functionality. In the OM-3, one of the most important of those features is great in-body stabilization. As a video content creator, getting steady footage and video while going handheld is big for me, but the stabilization on the OM-3 also helps on the stills side of things. The great stabilization that the body provides the sensor helps pictures remain clear even under slower shutter speeds, and plenty of the computational photography photography features rely on the stabilization to keep things stable so that the software can go to work. But now with the OM Systems OM-3, it's a computational world. There's literally a button right here that turns on a number of computational modes that include the Live ND, the Live GND, and HDR modes, which I think this situation is perfect for it, considering we have all of these blown out backgrounds and we have all of this like overcast that's happening. And even though it might be a fairly gloomy day, that doesn't mean that subjects are still not backlit, as you can see right here with this camera that I'm using to film this right now. So this is the time to actually hit that CP button, take a few of these pictures, and be able to get shots that actually don't have blown out backgrounds, have things evened out while the subjects still look really good. While all of these features do come in handy when you realize the scene calls for them, I will admit that just dialing in my own colors in the normal mode and maybe picking a few fun features in the art mode of the dial was my way of having fun and just snapping away. Welcome to Gyeongbokgung Palace, the palace grounds where if you are able to dress up as in a hanbok, which is a traditional clothing from the early ages of Korean history, you can actually walk in for free. I, however, as you can see, I am not dressed up in a hanbok, mainly because I have already done it before. No, instead of actually dressing up in one, I am dressing my parents up in one. This is their first time in South Korea, so I thought this would be a great memory for them, and that's where this camera comes in. This being a great travel camera can also be, as you're seeing in this video, a pretty good vlogging camera, and also, in the case of what I'm doing right now, a great actual like semi-professional camera, one that I would be able to get wonderful pictures of my parents, whether using wider lenses or what I'm going to do right now, throw on a 45, get some really good portraits of them and be able to get some dramatic shots of them in their hanboks. I have to admit, part of the reason why the OM-3 is so fun is because it is a small capable camera. It is with a camera like this that I feel empowered to bring other lenses, whereas with larger cameras, you don't really want to be like fiddling around with all of those big pieces of glass all the time, which is why you end up getting something like a 24 to 70 millimeter or something like that. But even those lenses are really large and they telescope most of the time, which takes up so much room in your bag or your kit. Although I will admit there are times when I wish that I did have like a large zoom lens on here. Like looking at the pond over here near the palace grounds, there's a duck going by. You all know how much I love ducks. I wish I could just like quick change into the 45 millimeter or even something wider or farther and be able to like get that shot real quickly. There is a teleconverter on here, which means that the 25 millimeter lens on here, which is effectively a 50, I can just hit this function button that I set for the digital teleconverter, effectively cropping into the sensor, but that makes it like effectively a 100 when I'm taking photos and about a 70 millimeter when I'm filming video. So there are some tools on here, and as long as you're using all of the controls that are on here, you have a lot at your disposal. And it really is the little things that make this camera so desirable and so much fun to use operationally. After all the dials and everything, I was talking earlier about this mode, or rather this color selection dial down here that changes up the look with just a quick snap over, maybe one or two, to either a black and white mono mode or to a certain color filter mode, an art mode, or even just one where you can dial in one color to sort of give a shade to the entire scene. I'm constantly doing stuff like this before I shoot to see what the different looks might be. And because some of the filters actually look like, let's say, old film cameras or old digital cameras, you just have a lot of versatility. I keep using that word, but it really is what it feels like on the OM-3, and it's all in a small package like this that is easy to run around with, both in a more grander sense, a macro sense like traveling, or just in a micro sense of just like trying to get pictures of street photography or people that you are with, or portraitures of my parents here. Actually, there's a really good shot right here. I should get that. Overall, the OM-3 managed to be a great companion for all of the work and leisure that I got into for a 2-week stint in Asia, thanks to how well OM System is utilizing the Micro Four Thirds sensor and how it outfitted it with incredibly versatile hardware. And it's all in a package that is as easy to carry around as it is to maneuver once it's time to get to work. Honestly, the best endorsement that I can give the OM-3 is that it made me, someone who lives in the video world most of the time, really excited to just take pictures. But where it gets extra points is in being a good video camera as well, which means I can actually minimize my kit even more without feeling like I'm missing out on too much. And so, there you have it. Some thoughts on the OM System OM-3, a highly sought after camera recently released that I certainly wanted to have with me on a trip out to South Korea, to Asia in general, where I actually used it as both my way of capturing memories while in Seoul, but also as my work camera for a trip that happened right before it in Taipei. As I've said many times in this video, it's just really nice to have such a capable camera in a small kit like this, with all of the control that I would look for to add texture to the photo-taking experience with dials and buttons all over the place that I would expect from larger cameras. And I do have to say, after I return this loan to OM System, I might actually start looking for one to get for myself and add to my travel repertoire. Let me know any thoughts you might have on the OM System OM-3 in the comments down below, and let me know if you're itching for a small but very versatile camera like this, especially for your travels. But with all of that said, I'm going to go ahead and call it on this one. Thank you so much for kicking it with me again today. Please take care of yourselves and each other, and enjoy your tea, everybody.